The glow of Christmas lights filled the dining room, casting warm colors across the table. Everyone was laughing, glasses clinking, the scent of roasted turkey and spiced wine floating in the air. For a moment, I thought maybe, just maybe, this holiday would feel normal again. But then my father cleared his throat. His voice cut through the chatter, sharp and commanding. "I have an announcement," he said, raising his glass. The room fell silent. Even the candles seemed to flicker lower, as if they knew what was coming. "We're selling the family company," he declared. "And you?" He turned toward me, his eyes cold. "Her getting nothing." The words slammed into me harder than any blow. Around the table, my relatives shifted uncomfortably, some hiding smirks, others avoiding my gaze entirely. My brother leaned back in his chair, smugness plastered across his face like he had been waiting for this moment. I forced myself to sit still, to breathe. Inside, my chest tightened, heat rising through my veins. I wanted to ask why. Why, after all the years I had sacrificed, after all the nights I stayed up helping with balance sheets, after all the times I bailed the company out with my ideas. They could throw me away so easily. But I didn't ask. I just smiled, faint and bitter. "Merry Christmas," I whispered under my breath, though no one cared to hear. That night, as laughter returned to the table without me, I excused myself and stepped outside into the cold. Snow crunched beneath my boots as I looked back at the house glowing with warmth, the sound of celebration muffled behind the walls. They had chosen their side. They had chosen my brother. They had chosen greed. What they didn't realize was this: their betrayal didn't break me. It forged me. And while they believed they had written my ending, I was already plotting my beginning. The days after Christmas felt like a blur, silent, heavy, and raw. My phone buzzed with family messages filled with false cheer, pretending nothing had happened. I ignored them all. I had no energy for hollow words. Instead, I buried myself in work. I had been part of the family company long enough to know its strengths. And more importantly, its weaknesses. My father thought I was disposable, but what he didn't realize was that I had learned everything about the business from the inside out. Every late-night meeting. Every client call. Every financial loophole. All the knowledge they dismissed as helping out had actually been the foundation of something bigger. I decided I wouldn't fight for scraps at their table anymore. I'd build my own. At first, it was lonely. I worked out of a cramped apartment, with nothing but a second-hand laptop and the kind of hunger that no meal could satisfy. But hunger has a way of sharpening you. I poured every ounce of energy into creating a company of my own. A business that didn't rely on legacy, but on innovation. Slowly, things began to shift. A former client reached out. Then another. Word spread that I was independent, that I had fresh ideas and the drive to make things happen. Deals trickled in, then flooded. While my family celebrated their victory over me, I was quietly climbing higher than they ever imagined. Months turned into a year, and my new company wasn't just surviving. It was thriving. My team grew, my office expanded, and investors who once praised my father now sought me. But I never bragged, never sent updates, never tried to prove myself to them. No, that was the beauty of revenge. It works best in silence. And while they were too busy gloating, I was preparing for the day when our paths would cross again. A day when their smug smiles would falter, and they would realize the empire they abandoned me for was nothing compared to the one I had built. The storm was coming. And I was the one creating it. The reckoning came faster than I expected. It started with whispers in the industry. The family company my father and siblings clung to so tightly was struggling. Their old methods weren't keeping up with the market. Their clients were leaving, and their reputation was sinking. I knew because some of those clients were now sitting in my office, shaking my hand. Then one afternoon, I received an invitation. A shareholders' emergency meeting. Not sent to me directly, of course. I was no longer part of the family. But a client-turned-friend forwarded it. The company was on the verge of collapse, and they were desperately seeking investors to keep it afloat. I smiled as I read it. Fate had a dark sense of humor. I arrived at the meeting not as the discarded child they once mocked, but as the CEO of a rival company that now overshadowed theirs. The look on their faces when I walked in, shock, disbelief, and then fear, was worth every sleepless night I had endured. My father cleared his throat, trying to mask his discomfort. "What are you doing here?" he asked, voice brittle. I leaned forward, calm and measured. "Business," I said. "Isn't that what you taught me?" Their desperation was written across the room. For the first time, they weren't in control. I was. The negotiations were brutal but precise. I made it clear I would buy their company, but only on my terms. No special treatment, no family discounts. They had made their choice long ago, and now they would live with it. In the end, they had no option. They signed. The company that once rejected me now belonged to me. The same father who had announced at Christmas that I was getting nothing had just handed me everything. When the papers were finalized, I stood to leave. My siblings looked at me with bitterness, my father with hollow eyes. "You're ruthless," he muttered. I paused at the door, then turned back. "No," I replied softly. "I'm prepared. You just never noticed." Walking out of that boardroom, I didn't feel fire or rage. I felt clarity. Revenge wasn't about destroying them, it was about showing myself that I didn't need their approval, their legacy, or their name. I had built something greater from nothing. And now, every time they step into that office, every time they see the company logo under my leadership, they'll be reminded of the night they tried to erase me from the story, only to make me the author of its next chapter.